IELTS, International English Language Testing System. And so today we're going to be talking about the speaking test. We said we have the 4 language skills that will be tested. We have the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We said we have the listening and the reading being receptive skills because you're receiving information, but the speaking and the writing are productive skills. So, IELTS speaking test. What is required for you when you're preparing for your speaking test? You definitely need to know that there are 3 parts that will be covered for the speaking test. We have the part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 takes 4 to 5 minutes, and here you'll be required to introduce yourself and also be involved in an interview between you and the examiner. And so for the interview, they might ask you questions based on where do you come from, your hobbies, and as you introduce yourself, definitely you will not really just say, my name is Joy. No, you tell them, my name is Joy Kimoto, in full. And if they also ask you for part 1 again, if they ask you about where you come from, you don't say Kilimani. Just one word, you say, I come from Kilimani, which is in Nairobi County, the capital city of Kenya, So there has to be that full sentence, sort of an answer. And because again, you're going to look like you're not confident when you just give one answer questions. Why? Because the speaking test is all about, can you be involved in a discussion or a conversation, between a native language speaker and yourself. So the part 2 takes 3 to 4 minutes, and you're supposed to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Here, you're given a card, and the card would include some questions there. They would ask you maybe to describe your favorite teacher, and what did you like most about them, maybe their qualities. And so what happens here, you're meant to really manage your time very, very well because you'll be required to only speak for 1 to 2 minutes. The part 2 takes 3 to 4 minutes. And so if you want to answer those questions well, you definitely, when they give you the card, put down your point, put down your answers, and then when they tell you to start speaking, start speaking. The speaking test is all about you speaking. Speak. Use fillers in your conversation, also you can try to use some gestures. Body language is key because it also helps with your confidence. Again, arm yourself with the topics that they might bring. They're fond of asking about leadership and gifts and maybe politics and maybe sports and stuff, travel, So arm yourself with such topics. You definitely need to prepare for that. So we go to part 3. Part 3 is the same as part 1. Takes 4 to 5 minutes. But then what you need to be very well prepared for is that for part 3, you'll be involved in a discussion. It's a discussion between you and the examiner. And the questions asked, the topic will be thematically related to part 2. So if part 2 was asking about travel, definitely that's what you expect for part 3. But here it's a discussion between you and the examiner. Your confidence definitely counts for this. So if they asked about travel and the places you like to travel, your travel destinations, you have to be prepared for such, given that you have already answered questions on that in part 2. So mostly what is required for you when you're preparing for your speaking test or when you're doing your speaking test is for you to definitely arm yourself with the topics that are required, the kind of questions that the examiner might bring, and again, your confidence is really, really key. Gestures, maintain an upright posture when you're speaking to the examiner because that will help with your articulation. And most people would want to wonder about their pronunciation, and they're thinking, oh, I can't speak like a native English speaker. But that's not really a problem because they're looking at how can you engage someone in conversation? Can you be understood? Is your conversation comprehensible? Your articulation, is it comprehensible? When I listen to you, will I be able to understand what you're saying? So don't worry so much about articulation and pronunciation because we all have accents. Everybody has an accent, wherever you come from. Wherever you come from, everyone has an accent. Some of us have issues with our L's and R's and all that, but really that shouldn't worry you. But what you can do to, again, work on that is to work with a tutor, work with a trainer who's going to help you out and tell you, okay, the way you're speaking now, you know, the way you're articulating, you could do this better, you could do this better. So you need to practice. And the only way you can practice is when you're working with maybe, say, a tutor, a trainer who's going to help you get to understand what you're doing wrong and what you're not doing, what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right. So part 1, part 2, part 3, that's for the speaking test. And when you're done with that, definitely you'll be done with your speaking test and you'll be very, very happy. Again, when you're answering questions, because some people would worry about the examiner being maybe intimidating. They say they were not friendly to them, and so when they were trying to answer questions, everything just went wherever. But what you should concentrate more on, why are you doing this test? You know, why are you doing it? You will find very different people. You know, the examiner might not be as friendly as you would expect, but he's definitely, or she is not there to make friends with you. Some of them might actually intimidate you, but your confidence is what counts. Answer the question as you are asked in full sentences. Try to use persuasive language. We talked about that last time, you know, where you can use your a forest, you know, the anecdote, the facts, opinions, rhetorical questions, you know, emotive language, statistics, the rule of 3, you know. They ask you something to do with, we talked about drugs. You could talk about maybe crisps. You would say the crisps were creamy, crunchy, and crispy. You know, you have some alliteration there. So you want to also wow your examiner, you know, use persuasive techniques. And so when you work with a tutor, they will help you out with all those persuasive techniques. I'm wishing you all the very best in your speaking test for IELTS.